Check. Keep it alive through these lines I write. I keep it live cause I thrive. I might just blow your mind tonight. I'm so hyped, but it's no hype. From this height, it's direct hits on sight. I'm your type, lend me your ears to show you that there's something in me. I'm not giving up, I'm standing right here, holding these days hostage. And I'll make this my year. We turning fear into love, and the love's in the air. I love doing this cause nothing compares. Nothing can share that same type of feeling when you feeling them flares. They can't catch it, it's havoc. I rip to a tear, switch a scenario. My stereos, I leave them impaired. Variables start to change and they're all in my range. I just gotta grab it, it's all mathematics. Every step is drastic, I make it fantastic. I'm trying to take your breath away. Asthmatic.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo.
Yeah, just nod your head with it, so explicit and vivid. Every image is intricate, intimate. I put my all into it, no scrimmage and no rules. I'm a pro tool, hear my heartbeat, beat into the vocals. I'm so loco, lost my mind, oh no. It's ponderoso, dope, so no overdose, cause it's dope, yo. Man, this is house grown, mixed with some milestones. So I let the style flow down like the Dow Jones, bringing it with some foul tones, letting the crowd know we getting loud, so it's eardrum rudiments. Yeah, we bring it rude again. Move, little hooligan. Music for tuning in, full time to the 10. I'm on my clock like I told you. I'm doing this for dreams we pursuing.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anti-Media Radio Show. Once again, with your host Nick Bernabe here on UCY.tv and the antimedia.com/radio. Really happy to be back alive and well on this Monday, May 14th, 2018. Got a lot of stuff going on, and I'm pretty sure everyone's familiar with the massacre that went on today in Gaza and all the tensions that continue to simmer over in the Middle East. And we're going to be talking about that stuff. And thanks for sticking around for my last show. It was just like one long-ass rant because I didn't have anyone on here with me. Hopefully tonight we'll have some guests. I think I see that Jake Anderson, our awesome journalist, is on the line now. What's up, Jake?
Yeah, man, I'm here. How's it going? Yeah, what a
not too bad.
Sad day. A lot of kind of paleo-conservative, pro-Israel bullshit going on, and it's pretty disgusting.
Yeah, dude, it's really upsetting, man. And it just looking at the stuff today, I shared a few things on my own profile about it, but I mean, 55 people that we know of so far killed in the Gaza Strip, protesters. I mean, and let's not pretend like these are completely just, women and children that are just minding their own business. I mean, yeah, some of these guys are throwing rocks, and some of these kids are they're upset. I mean, they're not just calm, but they aren't shooting guns, right? They're just basically unarmed when it comes to the gun factor, and they're just getting gunned down like crazy. 55 dead, reports of 2,000 injured. Yeah, they don't have they don't have guns over there. The Israelis are the only ones with guns. I mean, I guess the militias like Hamas and stuff have guns. Hamas wasn't out there protesting. It was just people. And yeah, some people are throwing slingshots, some people throwing rocks and stuff. No Israelis have been killed. 55 Palestinians dead, 2,000 injured. South Africa has recalled its ambassador to Israel. Turkey, just breaking news right now, Turkey just recalled its ambassador from the U.S. and from Israel for some kind of meeting because over this issue here with Israel's doing over there. I think with the internet
They're all
now,
in on it, Nick.
yeah, who knows? right? But, you know, with the internet now, this kind of stuff is no longer being completely just silenced. You know, people that want to not see it can go ahead and watch Fox News, and they can go get it whitewashed on CNN. Or you can read the New York Times headlines where it just says, oh, 50 people died in Gaza today, and not even saying how they died. They just 50 protesters dead. Oh, they just like spontaneously dropped dead. No, they were killed. This stuff can no longer just be covered up. You know, we're seeing it online basically in real time, and we're seeing these people get just slaughtered basically. And the situation there is just the most disgusting thing I've ever seen, and it's really hard right now to be a U.S. citizen and be aware of all this stuff that's going on with your money. You know, tax season just ended. They use your money, and
that's already all spent too, by the way.
Yeah, it is, and yeah, dude. Basically, you're paying for that stuff.
Where do people think that income tax goes? Do you really think it builds roads?
I mean, obviously it doesn't. Obviously it doesn't, dude. I mean, looking at the state of the roads is, it's going to worse, basically. I mean, why beat around the bush here? We're paying a bunch of money because we are an empire, and empire is expensive, and that's where most of your money goes. And this is the result. A bunch of people, including women and children, are killed. I saw that a baby died from inhalation of tear gas. I mean, if that's not a chemical weapon use, killing kids, like they say is being done in Syria, I don't know what is. And now, that girl that got kind of famous, the little blonde Palestinian girl that's in jail right now, Tamini, I think is her last name. I had Tamini. Her brother is now arrested as well. I mean, this is like there's a video on her mom and what her mom goes through. I mean, this is a generational warfare going on over here in your name with your money. And Trump, just the most sadistic shit today, is like saying congratulations to Israel, and Ivanka and Jared Kushner, and for some fucking reason, Gary Cohn, our Treasury Secretary, is over there in Israel commemorating the opening of this. What's his name? Mnuchin, not Cohn. Mnuchin is over there celebrating the opening of this embassy in Jerusalem. Like, why in the hell is a Treasury Secretary over there? It's just God. What are these guys doing? And it was just like a few miles away from where all these people are getting killed today, and they're out there joyous and celebrating and happy, and they named some fucking street after Donald Trump. The soccer team is naming itself after Donald Trump. It's just like two wholly separate worlds where one group is living in security and prosperity, and of course we're financing that prosperity and security. And another group is living under a complete martial law state with restricted access to basically all basic necessities, including water and electricity and food. It's just a hellish situation, and it's really hard right now.
And it's all for this thing called the Goliath natural gas field, Nick. I think you've possibly read about how they found something that was so much energy that it would literally power the entire world for the next century. And that's why the Palestinians, no matter what, have to get off their land, because they're right on that coastline.
Yeah, there's that. And even just basic farmland is being taken over by settlers and stuff. I mean, this is a real life, basically what America did to the Native Americans, and in some ways continues to do. But, back before we had the reservations and stuff, the stuff that Americans did to Native Americans was really brutal, and that's basically what's going on right now in Israel, with the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, and
the the policy of genocide, Nick, was from the Spaniards during their Inquisition when they had to drive out the Muslims at any cost and literally wiped anybody out that wasn't Catholic. And then they continued that exact mindset into the New World.
Yeah, they did. And throughout history, Americans have been conditioned to kind of not care when a brown person dies or gets enslaved or gets treated like shit or gets pushed into a reservation, as is the case with Native Americans. And so it's not all that surprising that Americans aren't like freaking out right now about what's going on with Israel and the Palestinians. I mean, to the average American onlooker, it's just another brown person getting beat up on, and it's just like, well, that's the American way. I mean, we've supported that forever. Americans have supported that policy for a long time.
It's even moneyed whites beating the shit out of poor whites too. America's always been about classism to the extreme. You have to remember the people that so-called won their independence were super moneyed, super wealthy landowners who owned slaves. So it's not like the founding fathers were, paragons of virtue here.
Yeah, and that's just how it is today too. It's these rich dudes want more power, and they trick all of us working class people to carry out their dirty work. In Israel right now, these fools are sniping down these protesters and even journalists. One website that we work with, that we have a aggregation partnership with, Middle East Monitor. Sorry. One of their journalists got shot, dude. So one of the guys that we work with, one of the websites or one of the news sites whose articles we post on our site, one of their journalists was shot yesterday by what is presumably an Israeli sniper. But yeah, I mean, you're right, DB. These guys it is class warfare, but at the end of the day, these Israeli snipers, it ain't Benjamin Netanyahu's son out there shooting. It's just some working class dude that has been tricked into hating Palestinians, or maybe even not. Maybe he's just following orders, which maybe is even worse. If you don't actually believe the shit you're doing, but you're just doing it for the paycheck. I don't know. That may be even worse.
It'd be different if Israelis genetically had a claim to the land, but they don't. And there's been this phrase that said the Jews left black and they came back white. And as a Jew, and studying where basically the Jewish religion came from, for sure, dude, like Moses was definitely dark brown. And these are primarily either Russian or Ashkenazi infiltrators, dude. These are World War II, basically political infiltrators trying to make greater Israel.
I mean, I think that there are a lot of these Jews. I mean, look, Israel is right in the Middle East. You'd expect most of these guys to be brown, right? But obviously, if you look, a lot of these Jewish guys are very white. And a lot of them are, Europeans who wound up converting, or they've through years and years of breeding with white Europeans, they're Jewish by religion. But like you say, genetically, maybe they're much less Jewish than what you would look at as the average Palestinian. Those people have been living in that region for a very long time.
They're the true Semites. So when people spout off bullshit about being anti-Semitic, you're the most anti-Semitic there is if you're against Palestinians.
Yeah, true. So this is just a wreck. It's a mess, and I don't know, dude. I'm kind of at a loss at what to say about this, because it's just so many people are just so callous about it, and like, well, they deserve it. It's a typical.
But it's scripted, dude. Do people not understand that they're trying to make the world go hot right now? And then once that happens, it doesn't matter. Even me in the middle of the country, I'm not safe. Like, these ballistic missiles have unlimited range, and you can't shoot them down. Like, once a world war starts, it's not going to be like it was back then when troops got onto a battlefield, and then towards the end of the war, there was horrible firebombing. That shit's going to start with horrible firebombing. Like, they're just going to ballistic missile everybody into oblivion. Dude, that's the reason they're poking Russia is because they know Russia would retaliate, and we have nowhere to hide. Like the American public, we have no bomb shelters. So it fits the agenda, dude. To take total control of the world means taking control of America. And you can't do that when there's an armed civilian population to stop you.
Yeah, good point. We also have Jake on the line. What's up, Jake? How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm pretty good. Yeah, I mean, it's a complex issue over there. I mean, it's unfortunate that what's going on right now is a very fringe. I mean, Trump's policy over there is a very fringe move. It's a very small cabal of I guess neoconservatives that wanted to be more aggressive on the embassy. Most people did not, but Trump is, he likes to do things that other presidents haven't done or that have been, that have a stigma behind them. He seems to enjoy that, and who knows what's really going on in terms of, but I mean, it seems like he handed this when he handed this over. It really seems like, I mean, for someone who's supposed to be the master of the deal, it seems like he could have gotten a little bit more assurance of peace for such an incredible gift to Israel. And it really seems like he made almost no effort to try any kind of peace negotiations.
So leveraged, Jake. I mean, he can't do anything against them or Russia. And I mean, people are starting to understand it's not really like about bots and Russian agents and any of that bullshit. It's just everybody's intercepting everybody's electronic communications all the time. And the dudes at the top are compromised because they're sick fucks. It's all of them, dude. So it's a messed up thing where the intelligence services of all of the major countries have blackmailed each other's politicians.
Yeah, it's like how long can that stuff go without trickling out into the masses,
Yeah, dude.
Well, dude, they got they got video, they got audio of everybody doing anything all the time. So
frazzle drip? No, like it's gonna have to be actually, like, if it's true, like, it's gonna be out there and people are gonna see it and it's gonna blow minds. I mean, it needs to happen, dude. I want it to happen. I know what you're talking about, but it's like, if these people are compromised, it needs to be leveraged to take them down, all of them. And if Trump is going to drain the swamp, he needs to be a part of that.
Well, he's leveraged too. It's just in a different way.
Well, if
it's
Trump,
like,
if Trump's going to drain the swamp, he's going to have to drain himself out too.
He can't, because he owes the Rothschilds. They bailed him out, dude. So that's the thing, is they play both sides. It's just a path was chosen for us. Right. There was either going to be a whimper with Hillary or a bang with Trump.
Yeah. And look, a lot of the stuff Trump is doing, a lot of this neocon shit. Look, dude, these guys aren't. Look, governments are not intelligent. They're not logical. They're not efficient. Okay? And the shit that these guys are doing, this empire, and there's a reason why empires always fail, why empires always collapse. No empires ever survive forever. It's because governments suck at everything they do. They may have a time where they're better than most, where most, every empire has a peak where it's like, oh, dude, for these 100 years, we're kicking ass, right? Like every empire before it, America passed its peak. And these lunatics, and I think you're right, Jake, that these are mostly the neocons. And let's not pretend that they're just Republicans, though, because Chuck Schumer, which is basically the highest-ranking Democrat, also got behind this Jerusalem embassy move as well. And so the neocons, the neoconservatives are not just Republican, they're Republican and Democrat at this point. I mean, Hillary Clinton was basically a neocon with progressive social values that, only changed after they became popular, right? But anyway, regardless of that, these guys are out of touch, dude, like the rest of the world. And I realized this over just recently, that Europe, as messed up as Europe is, and Europe's got a bunch of its own problems going on. They got all these issues in the UK and France, and Europe's not perfect but not even by a long shot, right? There's one thing that Europe knows for sure and didn't experience that we didn't, and it's what World War II actually was like. Because we sent guys over to fight, and Pearl Harbor got hit.
Even LA got hit.
These guys actually know what it's like to deal with a total war on the home front. We don't. Nobody alive in the U.S. has dealt with total war on the home front. No one that's from here, that lived here.
The worst part's when the farmlands get bombed and then food stops, and then that's when war becomes real for everyone.
Yeah, and everyone's affected by it. And so I think the one logical player in this big mess that is really one of the big things that keeps us up is the Europeans, because the Europeans are, for one, leading the way on BDS. I'm sure you guys have seen some of these Northern European countries have gotten on board with the BDS movement. So they're saying, okay, we're not going to invest in Israel until we see them make peace with the Palestinians. We're not going to send them any money. There's a big time BDS movement in Europe to the point where they're trying to make it illegal in the UK and places like that. And Europe is saying that they're going to stay with the Iran deal, the Iran nuclear deal too. In fact, we have an article up today on the Anti-Media. John Bolton warns that it could issue sanctions against European countries because it doesn't look like they're going to back out of the Iran deal at the request of the United States. So I think the one positive thing with all the stuff going on is that Europe is basically disengaging in many ways with coordinating with the United States. Now, of course, the French and the British helped bomb Syria just a few weeks ago, so who knows how deep and how meaningful these guys really are. But there's been a lot of talk from politicians. There's been German and British politicians talking about how they can no longer rely on the United States as basically, weirdly enough, how they phrase it, as the policeman of the world, and that we've become irresponsible with that kind of privilege / responsibility / whatever you want to call the police actions that the U.S. does around the world. The point I was getting at, though, is that these neocons are fucking out of touch. They think that we can control the world. And again, we talked about this not too long ago. These people have been trying to control the whole world since day one, and no one's ever been able to do it. And everyone that tries to do it fails miserably and gets totally fucked up in the process most of the time. These neocons think they can do it. It's just not possible. It's literally
these idiots
not
are going to try to invade Russia again.
Yeah. Yeah, and the last few people who tried to take over the world tried to invade Russia, and that's how they lost, right?
And you're right about China siding with them, because they'd have to. They'd fear for their own safety, so of course they'd side with Russia.
Yeah, I guess the British...
They'd have to know they're next, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess the British didn't invade Russia, but Napoleon and the Nazis did, and look what happened to them.
Well, even China tried it one time. China actually has tried to invade two countries and failed miserably, which was Russia and Japan. And then they actually invaded Vietnam and then got their ass kicked so hard they just ran back. They're not an invasion mindset. They're not. Like, if you ask Chinese people what they want to do, they just want to make a lot of money. They're not trying to invade.
Yeah, no, they invade with railroads, and they invade with business and stores and stuff like that. Chinese it's a commerce culture, They're not outwardly violent. Yeah, they have their own internal beef and shit, but they're a commerce culture. And that's why I've said it before, is that it's an unknown, but the U.S. has fucked up its ability. Like, the U.S. could have, after World War II, the U.S. could have been in a position to where it was genuinely going to say, you know what, we're actually going to push for good shit in the world. We're going to do good things. We're going to make sure dictators aren't killing people, and we're going to, genuinely, like what we say we do. How we say that we're going around the world protecting democracy and freedom and promoting, freedom and killing bad dictators and all that shit. Like, if we actually did that, that would have been one thing. But what actually goes on, which is regime change for resources and, assassinations and installing right-wing military coups and all kinds of shit like that. The U.S. had a chance to prove itself as the world leader and say, you know what, we genuinely are going to be a good world leader, the shining light on the hill, like Reagan once said. But we fucked it up. We went and did, after World War II, we went and did a bunch of really, really, really dumb shit. And we've just been making a mess of things ever since. And so the whole world, at this point, there was a poll conducted around the world asking who is the biggest threat to world peace. And you know what? The U.S. came in first place. The whole world is kind of seeing it now. There's no more papering over it with this bullshit propaganda. I mean, they still try. And these neocons, again, they still think that they can conquer the whole world because they got aircraft carriers and nobody else does, I think.
Well, I think we have some things that are ridiculous, Nick. Like, to be honest, I've researched it, and I really do think we have space-based weapon systems that cannot be protected against. So I really think if we do want to and rod of God a nation into the Stone Age, that there's nobody that can stop that. But of course, that would create a ground war of the whole world against us. So they're waiting for like the last moment to use it, dude. And I really think that's why they want to set the Middle East on fire.
Yeah, but if you look at our track record, the U.S. doesn't have a good history of winning wars.
But we've never needed to or wanted to. It's always been a business. What if it was done being a business and they were just actually going to just fuck everyone up now?
Yeah, I mean,
that's what I'm worried about, dude. I'm not just like, it's not hyperbole. It's like, research these solar warden programs. If they have shit that can fly around in space and drop rod of gods on people, I mean, how could you even stop that?
Yeah, man, I don't know. I don't think it's possible, though. It's just, there's too many damn people. The world is too big. And look, the U.S. is like on the verge of collapsing on itself. I mean, California is talking about seceding. Texas is talking about seceding. Different parts of this country are talking about separating. Now, I don't think that's going to happen very soon. But at the same time, it's kind of just more proof to my argument that the world is just too damn big to have one group of people running it. And look at the EU. They tested out that supranational government. It's failing epically. The UN is a failure. NATO is a failure. Every time someone tries to make a big government, it fails. And the only thing the only thing that remains cohesive are cultural groups, and those cultural groups do their own thing, and they remain cohesive regardless of what government is in power and who tries to tell them what to do and who tries to change them and make them do things they want to do. Like, those people do their thing, and that's the only thing that's going to survive.
I mean, realistically, though, I mean, do you really think in its current, incarnation, humans would I mean, do you think there wouldn't be like mass chaos if we did not have, law and order of some kind? I'm just playing devil's advocate right here. I'm not in support of the government, but...
You mean like true anarchy without actually having automated self-sufficiency or something like that?
Yeah, like
we have to get to that point, and then
I think in 50 years maybe it's a conversation we can have. But right now, there's just too many unself-reliant people, too many greedy people, and too many psychopaths and sociopaths. I just don't see how it would work.
Yeah, no, the world ain't ready for it, bro. There's no way. Little communities, dude, there's places already that are anarchist communities and stuff, and they've been doing it that way for a very long time, hundreds, maybe thousands of years, tribes and stuff in remote places. But when you talk about large, huge populations like Southern California, the northeastern United States, the big cities down in Texas, the Pacific Northwest, the world ain't ready for it, bro. People are too damn greedy and violent for that kind of stuff to happen yet. I think, like you said, in 50 years when technology gets better and we make these politicians irrelevant, not by firing shots and stringing them up off of fucking, at the gallows or putting them in the guillotines like they used to do, they'll silently be made irrelevant by technology. And I think that's the more likely scenario. And
that's the only way to do it, because every time we do even string them up on the gallows, that's just the puppets.
Yeah, and it just put the new guys in, and it'll be good for like 10 years, and back to right back to same old shit.
Even what's going on with Trump right now is just that cycle of, the strong men make the good times make the weak guys, and all that crap. And this is the strong man who's going to make the good times. You have to understand, though, those are always in quotations, right? The good times for the few.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think part of the reason why so much shit is going on is that these guys know they are going to be made irrelevant sometime pretty soon. Now, I don't think these corporations are like too worried about it, because these guys have their shit figured out, I guess you could say, and they're going to be probably fine when governments become irrelevant and get dissolved. In fact, many would say that the corporations are already in charge and the politicians are just puppets, which, basically is true. You get rid of the puppets, it's just like, all right, we got corporate governance now at this point. The charade is over. Let's stop pretending that it hasn't always been this way. That'll probably be the next step, right? And isn't that kind of like what the TPP was like kind of shooting for in some aspects? It was like, get the governments out of the way. Let's establish corporate tribunals, settle everything, corporation to corporation or whatever. Yep. And I think that was kind of what they were shooting for in some ways. But again, the fucked up thing, and it's nowhere is it more evident, I think, than in the United States, is that shit is going to get much, much worse before it gets any better, because these fuckers are lulled to fucking sleep right now. People are lulled the fuck to sleep. They're in a deep psychosis, to the point where not only are they apathetic, but some of these motherfuckers are cheering it on, dude. Like, they're cheering on the pain and suffering, and people are cheering on these Palestinians getting killed. People don't give two shits about our foreign policy. People dying all around the world. It has to get much worse before these motherfuckers snap out of it. Like, much, much worse. And unfortunately, those are the nasty days, I think, that we're going to have ahead of us before things get better.
I don't think that the empire can reverse course, dude. I really don't. I thought for a minute Trump might contract us, but I understand now they're just... What they did was they did whatever they needed to do to appease China enough to make him put enough pressure on Kim Jong, and then probably sabotage the shit out of that nuclear facility. And that was it. That's all she wrote. So they got rid of that front. So that front's now sealed up. So now they can just go full bore on the Middle East. There's like literally there's no other worries they have now.
Yeah, and I think that's what they probably want to do, is just keep drawing.
They're just pounding away at it, man. They're just splitting it up, partitioning it. Israel gets more land every year. Turkey loses a ton of power. Iran's losing power. Russia's losing power. I mean, they're driving a wedge, dude.
I want to ask you guys, going a little further on the religious end of things here. Do you think what's going on with Trump and Jerusalem and Israel and all this stuff, do you think that these neocons are operating on some type of religious extremism where they're trying to usher in the rebuilding of the Temple Mount, right? There's a biblical prophecy that says that the Jesus will come. The second coming will be like after the Temple Mount is rebuilt, right? I could be wrong on this, but I think that's the biblical prophecy. Do you think that these guys? Okay, well, some big thing is going to happen when the temple is rebuilt. Do you think that these guys are operating on some kind of playbook where they're trying to usher in some prophetic biblical shit? DB, what do you think?
I mean, from what I've listen to other people say, yeah, I mean, I haven't researched evangelicalism. I know from Judaism that there's various kinds. There are Jews that worship the Talmud and those who worship the Torah, and they're very, very different. I mean, the people that worship the Talmud are the ones that are mostly in charge. These are the Zionists. They want the Greater Israel Project to happen, which is where the Tigris and the Euphrates meet the Mediterranean. So, I mean, a lot of people surmise there's so many holy sites within all that land that they'll never stop till they get it all. Like, it's literally all the lost tribes that are coming back, and that is the Temple Mount. So once they rebuild that temple, Solomon's temple, I mean, they're supposed to reunite all 12 tribes, and then I don't think it's Jesus that comes back, not whatsoever. It's something much worse to my knowledge.
No, it wouldn't be Jesus if the Jews are working at it, because they're not.
It's not even the real Jews that worship the Torah. It's these cryptos that worship the Talmud. They're the Babylonians of old, dude.
Jake, what do you think, bro? I mean, do you think there's some religious extremism that is involved in this?
I don't know. I've wondered that for years, whether the neoconservatives actually believe in a kind of religious apocalypse on the horizon, or whether this is all money-driven. I honestly couldn't tell you. It's probably a mixture of both.
Yeah, I think those two things are some of the most powerful forces, right, in the world. You know, there's no doubt that religion has driven, for better or worse, a lot of human action. And there's no doubt that greed drives the majority of human action. So, you know, I've always wondered this too, is whether these guys are trying to, because, you know, we all know the Temple Mount is in Jerusalem. It's also the site. So here's the thing. And here's the thing that is I find interesting with the Christians in this country and their support of Israel, considering the biblical stories of how supposedly the Jews had Jesus killed, and you would think Christians wouldn't be too happy about that. And in the past there have been times where Catholics have turned against Jews, and we know that all too well. Now, here's the interesting thing. In Jerusalem is a holy site, maybe the holiest site for all three Abrahamic religions. Obviously for the Jews, obviously for the Muslims, but also for the Christians. And so this is an extremely holy site for all three religions. And I think if any peace accord is going to happen, that all three religions must have representation. And I've actually made the argument, and this was a long time ago before I really got into politics and stuff. I used to make the argument that Jerusalem should be turned into something kind of like the Vatican, where it's like an autonomous, zone, and have three representatives, one representative from each religion, a Christian, a Jew, and a Muslim, all kind of preside over it and have it represented equally, so that everyone can say, okay, yeah, we all have an equal share of this space, and we can all, peacefully coincide here and share this holy site. Now, of course, I'm not a religious person, and so a lot of this stuff seems ridiculous to me. But I know that a lot of people are very religious, and that's something that's just a part of being human, I think, is looking into religions and entertaining them and wondering whether they're real or not, practicing them and stuff. And so I may think religions are ridiculous, but at the same time, I understand people believe them fiercely and they need representation. I think all three religions can have a space there. The Christians, the Jews, and the Muslims can have a space. And until that happens, that place is going to be a source of conflict. It's going to be a huge source of conflict, and people are just going to keep dying and fighting over it. And someday, maybe the next great power after the U.S. empire falls, maybe the next people who are the most powerful in that region will be backed by China. And then the Jews are going to be the ones that are getting thrown out of Israel. And then we're going to be protesting because Palestinians are oppressing the Jews, and Palestinians are forcing the Jews into camps and cutting off their water and their electricity. Hopefully that's not the case, but that could easily be the case if the tide turns and an Eastern power becomes the new great world power and backs up a rival faction that is not Israel. And the tides could easily be turned. And so there's in my opinion, there's a huge motive here to get a peace deal sorted out, a permanent one that could last, because there's no telling how long Israel is going to be able to remain that dominant force over there until the next guy comes up and says, you know what, we're fucking sick and tired of you, bro. We're about to do to you what you just did to the Palestinians. And then what? And then what? And then we just restart this whole cycle over again, and everyone's out marching for the Muslims to stop killing the Jews and stuff. I mean, that could easily happen in another 30, 40 years if we're not careful about this, and if we don't really try to make a real peace. And I'll tell you what, man, these neocons, the Netanyahu, Trump, and all the other assholes that are involved in this, dude, these guys need to go away. They need to die. They need to be put in prison. They need to be put on trial. These are war criminals. They need to get justice for us to get on beyond it and to let people actually live in peace. And I don't know how many times we got to say this, but everybody wants peace. All of us want peace. 99% of Muslims want peace. 99% of Jews want peace. 99% of Christians want peace, but they're tricked into war. And that's all this is. That's all it is. Everyone getting tricked into wars. So hopefully, sometime soon, I think these neocons are going to have to put up, we're going to need some sacrificial lambs, and we're going to have to make the neocons them. Put them on trial. Let the people, kind of release their apprehensions on a few figureheads, and then move forward with peace. It's in all of our interests. The only people who aren't interested in peace are the people making money off of death, or these crazy fanatics. And there's fanatics in every fucking religion. Even the Buddhists and the Hindus got religious fanatics that go around killing people for being Muslim and stuff. I mean, shit, bro. I mean, no religion is immune from fanaticism, but generally speaking, I think most of these religions are kind of trying to advocate, generally good stuff. Don't kill people, be nice to people, and don't sin. Generally speaking, sins are immoral acts. And of course, I disagree with many of the things that these religions preach and stuff. But I mean, generally speaking, from a moral standpoint, a lot of this stuff is, decent stuff. They all want peace. Everybody wants peace. Except for these few assholes that don't. And I think it's about time we deal with these guys. But it's going to get worse first before it gets any better. Because just judging by the attitudes here in the U.S., it's just... These people, man, they are so damn brainwashed that it's just, they don't care. They don't care that a bunch of people are dying. Unless they're told to care. Unless the media tells them to care. Or unless some Muslim guy kills somebody and then it's like, oh yeah, that's horrible. Or some group that we're programmed not to like does something bad. Like if Russia drops a bomb in Syria, it's like, oh my god, Russia just killed civilians. The U.S. drops a bomb in Syria, kills civilians. They're terrorists. Shouldn't have been there. We are programmed like that. Until we break it, it's going to be that way. I think we're capable of breaking it, though. It's going to come soon. I mean, what do you think's going to happen next, TV? What's your timeline?
I think there's potential for there to be some kind of a limited exchange of some of the higher tech stuff, and I think that it could be bad enough to make people exert actual pressure on their governments for the first time in a long time. And I think this is one of the last windows we have where something like a strike could paralyze commerce, because I'm sure at some point there'll be, Amazon drones delivering everything and they won't need us at all. But that day isn't there yet, and we can definitely disrupt and even prevent commerce and money. And that's maybe the only thing that works, because I know it happens all the time in Europe and Latin America where they'll jam up cities. And maybe if we do that, we can stop these wars, because I'll tell you, half of everything you make goes to them. And if they took even 20-30% of that and divested it into us and the people, I mean, our lives would be infinitely better. And they're hoarding all the assets to use for completely nefarious purposes. And I mean, look, they're gutting all the social programs. I mean, if you haven't felt it yet, maybe it's just because you're managing to continue to earn an income. But I know a lot of people right now that are in tents and cars that were in apartments 2-3 years ago, and it's an endemic.
Yeah, dude. I know a lot of people start living out of their cars. A lot of people just surfing couches, roommating.
Dude, it's depressing, man. Like, we cannot exist as a nation with this many people that are barely making it. Like, as soon as the depression hits, I know why now they work so hard to get the Second Amendment done with, because they literally cannot collapse the economy until they get us disarmed. All they can do is just keep quantitative easing forever. And slower and slower, we're going to have shittier and shittier lives until enough of these shootings that'll scare people enough, they'll give it up. And when that day happens, you're going to really see fascism.
That'll be your ticket out, bro. See that shit coming, you get out.
Nah, man, it'll be overnight because they know they can't do it any other way. It's going to be gun confiscation orders overnight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really sad, dude. Like, I've seen such a huge uptick in homelessness, and like the economy is like supposedly good, and they've been saying, oh, well, the inflation's not out of control. I mean, shit. I'm looking at housing pricing, and if I wanted to buy a house in my neighborhood, which again is not the greatest area, and it used to be bad. Like, it's not bad anymore, but it's not a good neighborhood. But there's no way in the world I'll be able to afford to buy a home or a condo even in my neighborhood where I live, where I've lived my entire fucking life. I can't afford to live here unless I'm renting off some fucking landlord asshole. And there's just a bunch of homeless people everywhere in San Diego.
Even here, Nick, even here, where the climate is the absolute unbelievable in winter. I don't even know how many people must have froze this winter that they just didn't put in the news, because I know we saw tents going into winter, and it got into negative 30s. I mean, I don't care what you have. If you're outside and you're overnight, there's a chance you sleep, you don't wake up. It's just, dude, it's getting bad, man, and I don't know. I'm sure it's even worse than when I was there in SoCal. I've seen NorCal now. They have poop maps in San Francisco where not to go because there's so much poop and pee on the streets.
Yeah, and San Francisco's progressive, quote-unquote, mayor is like sweeping up all the homeless people and just rounding them up and basically deporting them out of the city and sending them off to who knows where to go, put the burden on someone else. And I've heard of them doing that other places too. They just put you on a bus, drive you for like 2 hours, and drop you in some random town in the middle of fucking nowhere. But the homelessness around here is just exploded, and they're telling us the economy's good, but the inflation is out of control. They're saying the inflation's not out of control, but I mean, shit, the housing is ridiculous. The damn gas prices are $4. I paid $4 yesterday for a gallon of gas. I literally put $5. I was like, you know what? It was at one of those areas where the gas is expensive. I'm like, I'm only gonna put $5 in here. Only got me like a gallon and fucking 1.2 gallons or some shit. Didn't even register in my car. My car still said I had low gas. The inflation's out of control, man. Like you said, dude, quantitative easing. They keep printing those money, printing those dollars, and they gun down countries that won't take the dollar, and more countries are turning off the dollar. Iran, of course. Coincidentally, Iran announced a few weeks before Trump pulled the plug on the Iran deal that it was going to be dealing in euros instead of dollars, and that's exactly what Saddam Hussein was working on doing too, right before they went and toppled him. So everything we're told about Iran, Trump's speech that he gave about pulling out of the Iran deal was just chock full of propaganda, and it was literally like 95% propaganda. The whole thing was propaganda, basically, and it's really in response to our waning political and economic influence around the world. They can no longer just bully people into, taking our dollars. And the biggest one on the block, the second biggest guy on the block, is China. And really, there's not much the U.S. can do to China no more, dude. Like, they built that Silk Road, man. Like, China built that up, and they were waiting to challenge the U.S. until they have it basically finished. It ain't fully done yet. We ain't seen nothing yet between the U.S. and China, dude. Once they got that Silk Road fully completed, and they've fully militarized the Sea of China, China ain't gonna play no games, dude. They're not gonna be bending for nobody, bro. Like they're not. They're gonna do their thing, and there ain't gonna be nothing we can do about it. And a bunch of countries are gonna shift from the dollar to the Chinese standard, whatever that's going to be, whatever they create, which will probably be an international consortium of currencies, I'm guessing, that won't be fully dominated by China, but with China as the biggest actor. And again, going back to the neocon dream of controlling the world, it just ain't going to happen. I don't care what weapons you got. If your only weapons you got to destroy the whole world in order to conquer it, what's the point? Why are you going to conquer a world that you got to destroy to win it? And I don't know. Are these guys that insane? I mean, I know they're crazy. I know they're sociopaths. I know they don't care that they're killing a bunch of people around the world. But are they really going to destroy the whole world and say, you know what? That's our world now. Why don't they just go fly to get on a fucking spaceship, fly to another planet and say, hey, I conquered this whole planet. Here's my flag. That's my planet now. Go do that. Send the neocons to fucking Mars for all I care. They can have it. There's people here that don't want to be dominated, don't want to be killed. The only way to conquer the whole world is to destroy the whole fucking thing. That's the only way. You got to kill everybody, and you got to destroy the whole place. That's the only way you're going to actually win it. Because even two people can't get along, bro. Like, everybody knows that. People that get married know that. You can't even make two people get along, bro. How are you going to make 7 billion people get along under one government? It just is not going to happen. You can't make 300 million people get along under one government. You can't make 300 million people get along under 50 sub-governments. I mean, shit, California, not only is California talking about separating from the U.S., California talking about separating from itself. There's a ballot initiative coming up. They're getting signatures to split California into 3 different pieces. I mean, we can't even govern one state cohesively. So all these guys with their pipe dreams of conquering the world, dude, I'm sorry, man. It just is not possible at all. At all. Too many people, too many different views of the world, too many different ideologies, too many different religions. Nobody's going to rule them all, ever. So these dudes just need to give it up. And I know that's part of it. Dude. I mean, I know a lot of it's greed and these guys are just trying to make money. I know it's part of it, though. Somebody has always wanted to conquer the world, and everyone always tries. Hitler tried, the Mongolians tried, the British tried, Napoleon tried, the Spaniards. I mean, everyone tried to do it. No one can do it. It's not possible. It had been done by now. Unless you kill everyone, you're the only guy left. Oh, I got the whole world now to myself. Yeah, good fucking job on you, buddy. Enjoy it. Just a sick state of mind, bro. And I had a buddy comment on my post. I'm not going to say his name, but one of my buddies commented on my post earlier today, and he's like, "Well, the reason Israel's doing this is because you didn't want to vote, and you by not voting, you allowed some Trump to get elected and all that. And I'm like, dude, like, I wish that there was like noble and just politicians who are actually genuinely out there to do better for the world. And there are some, like, nobody's perfect, but I think guys like Rand Paul and guys like Bernie Sanders and people like Tulsi Gabbard and, God, I can't even remember their name. There's a handful of them up there in Congress that I think are, they're not perfect, but they genuinely are trying to do better for this country. But they're the minority, dude, and they're hammered down like a fucking nail that sticks out of a board. And they get into debates and they get ignored. They get called fringe. They get called isolationists. And you all saw what happened to Bernie Sanders, dude. Bernie Sanders ain't going to win an election in a higher office because Bernie Sanders just ain't going to win an election in a higher office. That's just how it is. And the people that genuinely run and are these fools that get elected, they're all fucking sociopaths. The good people ain't trying to rule over other people. If you become a politician, there's something wrong with you. For the most part, generally speaking. If you want to be a politician, you got something wrong in your head. And to think that we're going to elect some douchebag sociopath that wants to rule over other people as a benevolent politician is going to solve our problems for us, good fucking luck on that, dude. It ain't happening because all these dudes are twisted in the head. All of them. And the ones that aren't get caught up in the groupthink. And just like Rand Paul voted in favor of Pompeo. They get caught up in the group thing, ain't nothing they can do about it. And even if they do vote, what's one dude going to say no and 49 other motherfuckers say yes? Good luck, bro. Good luck winning an election. Voting for these guys is not the way out. Now, I'm sure when the time comes, and like I was saying, when shit does get worse, and then people finally do come around and say, shit, maybe this empire is not such a good idea. We need to worry about our shit here at home. Stop spending 2/3 of our fucking budget overseas, giving money away to Israel and giving away a bunch of weapons to Saudi Arabia and having a perpetual war in 100 different countries. Maybe that's not such a good idea. Yeah, and then there's going to be politicians that come around that are going to be more like Bernie Sanders and more like Ron Paul and stuff, and then they're actually going to get elected into higher office. But it's not. It ain't going to be the elections changing things. It's the people changing first, and then the elections come around and say, oh, yeah. It's just like marijuana, dude. Politicians didn't legalize marijuana. We did. We said, you know what? That war on drugs bullshit, that's bullshit. And everyone don't believe in it no more, and then the politician had no choice but to support it, otherwise they get voted out. And that's what it is. The politicians ain't going to change shit. It's us. It's in our own heads. It's our own groupthink. It's in our own hearts. We got to change it ourselves, and you change it by convincing your friends and family about why empire isn't a good idea. That is not very hard, dude. It doesn't take a lawyer to convince someone that having a fucking empire is a bad idea. All you gotta do is show them a damn history book. All you gotta do is show them a few documented facts of what goes on. The people were, if it was popular to be against the war in Afghanistan, if it was popular to be against the war in Iraq, we wouldn't be there no more. And I'm not talking about this partisan nonsense with like the Democrats and how they hyped all that foreign policy up when they were trying to get Obama elected. And it's like, oh yeah, we're going to end the war in Iraq and we're going to end the war in Afghanistan. And, that was all a big mistake. And then Obama gets elected. It's like, all right, guys, enough of that bullshit, dude. We were just saying that to get elected. You guys, thanks for your vote. We're just going to continue these wars perpetually. But, thanks for your vote anyway. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in. Anti-Media Radio. Peace out.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.